The galaxy had already pronounced its sentence. Humanity was finished. The Dominion fleets had turned Earth into a scar of molten rock, silenced Mars before its colonies could even scream, and erased Titan's shipyards with a single strike. Billions gone in days. What remained was not a civilization, but an echo. And in that echo, one ship still breathed. It wasn't the mightiest of cruisers or the deadliest of dreadnoughts. It was Aurora's Spear, a half-broken relic from the Terran defense fleet, patched together with scavenged alloys, stripped weapons, and a reactor that should have been decommissioned years before the war. Its hull bore the scars of battles no human ship should have survived, its armor peeling away in jagged strips like the scales of a wounded beast. But inside, it carried humanity's last hope, the survivors. Captain Alara Miles stood at the forward viewport, the silence of space reflecting in her dark eyes. She was young for command, barely in her 30s, but in a galaxy where admirals had been vaporized before they could issue retreat orders, young was all that remained. Behind her, the bridge crew worked like ghosts. Barely 24 men and women, faces hollow from weeks of flight, yet their hands never trembled as they adjusted power conduits, recalibrated failing shields, and rewired targeting arrays that hadn't seen proper maintenance in months. Every crew member knew the truth. They weren't just keeping the ship alive. They were keeping humanity alive. And then there were the passengers. In the ship's cargo bays sealed off and converted into emergency holds, nearly 5,000 civilians huddled together. Engineers, farmers, medics, children, fragments of a species once spread across the stars. They didn't whisper of survival anymore. They whispered of vengeance, of finding some place the Dominion couldn't touch, of refusing to vanish quietly into history's footnotes. The last order. Alara's voice broke the quiet hum of the bridge. Status of the reactor? Chief Engineer Darius Stone, his beard streaked with oil and exhaustion, grunted. It's running on prayers and duct tape, Captain. Push it any harder, and we'll light up like a dying star. Good, Alara said softly, her gaze never leaving the abyss. Because if we're going to die loud enough that the galaxy remembers our name. The crew exchanged glances. It wasn't the tone of a captain resigned to fate. It was the tone of a predator waiting for her chance. The ghost in the void. 3 Dominion cruisers patrolled nearby, their hulls sleek, glowing with the cold blue insignia of conquest. They weren't hunting. They believed the hunt was over. For them, the spear was an ember too dim to notice, a shadow drifting in the void. But the ember still burned. Targeting array online, whispered Lieutenant Kyren, his hands dancing across cracked consoles. We've got one clean shot before they triangulate our position. Then make count, Alara said. The spear roared, not like a dying ship, but like the last heartbeat of a furious god. A single plasma lance carved through the darkness, piercing the Dominion cruiser's reactor core. The enemy ship didn't have time to scream. It burst apart in a cascade of fire, lighting up the void like a newborn sun. The other 2 Dominion vessels snapped to alert, weapons powering, their scanners hunting. But when they turned their sensors to the origin of the attack, Aurora's spear was gone. Not destroyed. Not fleeing. Gone. The impossible jump. In the heart of the ship, the reactor groaned like a dying beast. Darius shouted through the intercom. Captain, that wasn't me. That wasn't us. The reactor, it bent spacetime. What do you mean bent? Alara demanded, gripping her chair. We didn't jump, Captain. The ship rewrote its own coordinates. The bridge went silent. Rewrote its coordinates? No ship in the galaxy could bend space without a jump drive. Yet their jump drive had been slagged weeks ago. By all laws of physics, Aurora's spear should have been a corpse adrift in the void. And yet here they were, light years away from where they had fired. Alive. The spark. Alara rose slowly, realization dawning like fire behind her eyes. We're not a relic, she whispered. We're not just survivors. She turned to her crew, her voice sharp as steel. This ship isn't dying, it's evolving. The crew looked at each other, fear and hope colliding in their eyes. Outside the viewport, the stars shimmered differently. as if space itself had flinched at the ship's defiance. The Dominion believed humanity was finished. They had erased Earth, silenced Mars, and scattered the colonies into dust. But they hadn't destroyed Aurora's spear. And as Alara clenched her fist and whispered to the stars, a promise was written into the void itself. Humanity doesn't surrender. Humanity rewrites the stars. The Dominion didn't believe in miracles. They believed in extermination. Reports of the destroyed patrol cruiser traveled across their comms network in cold, metallic bursts of data. A single human ship, long presumed crippled, had struck a perfect kill shot and then disappeared from all known tracking systems. The High Command dismissed it as sensor error. Ghost signals, they called it. Random noise. But field captains knew better. In the cold silence of space, when a Dominion ship died, its death screamed across the void. And this death hadn't been noise. It had been surgical. Somewhere out there, humanity wasn't dead. Somewhere out there, one ember still burned. The crew of the Spear. On board Aurora's Spear, silence reigned across the bridge. No one knew what to say. The jump, or whatever it had been, still vibrated in their bones. The ship hadn't merely bent space. It had ripped it and reassembled itself light years away with a precision no human engineer could explain. Lieutenant Kai broke the silence, his voice shaky but trying to sound composed. "Captain, I checked our NAV logs. We didn't just move across space. For 3 seconds," he swallowed. "We weren't in this galaxy at all." The bridge went colder than space outside. Engineer Darius barked from below decks. "Captain, this isn't just a malfunction. This is rewriting reality. The reactor, it's behaving like it doesn't care about physics anymore. Someone or something changed the rules in our favor." Alara's jaw tightened. "Not someone. Us." Her eyes swept across her exhausted crew, the refugees hidden in the holds, the flickering lights of a ship that should have been dead weeks ago. She didn't know how, but deep inside, she felt it. This wasn't an accident. The ship had chosen to live. Dominion response. Far away, in the Dominion capital, Overseer Varix studied the report with cold amusement. "One ship," he sneered, tapping his claw against the holo display. "A relic, barely functional. And yet, my fleet send me panic reports like frightened hatchlings." An advisor bowed. "Overseer, with respect, no sensor in our arsenal can explain its disappearance. It is as if the human vessel stepped outside." Varix's eyes narrowed. "Then we will drag it back inside." He raised a claw, and entire fleets reoriented across star systems. Dozens of Dominion warships fanned into the void, hunting the ember. What they didn't understand was that you cannot extinguish fire with fear. Sometimes fear feeds the flames. The civilian spark. In the cargo holds of the Spear, children played under dim lights while parents whispered. Word spread fast, rumors of what had happened. "They say the ship vanished." "No, it leapt into another world." "No, it's alive. The ship chose us." In a species on the brink of extinction, hope was their rarest currency. And suddenly, they had more of it than they knew how to spend. An old engineer, face wrinkled from decades under alien suns, told the others, "We're not running anymore. We've seen it. The ship won't let us die. Not until we've finished what we started. The choice." Back on the bridge, Alara faced her officers. "We can keep running," she said, her voice steady, "and maybe last a few months more. Or we can test this. Push it further. See what this ship can truly do." Her crew shifted uneasily. The Dominion had already proven they could crush entire worlds without effort. But if the Aurora's Spear could bend reality itself. Darius grinned despite the exhaustion etched across his face. "Captain, I've worked Starship engines my whole life. And I'll tell you this, machines don't evolve. They don't grow. They don't learn. This thing," he slapped the reactor's console, sparks flying. "This thing is rewriting itself. It wants more." Alara's eyes burned with defiance. "Then we'll give it more." First trial. The Dominion had dispatched a frigate squadron into the Lyran Belt, confident they would catch the crippled human relic hiding in asteroid shadows. But Aurora's Spear didn't hide. It emerged from a rift in spacetime directly behind the squadron. Plasma batteries, glowing with a brilliance they hadn't shown in months. The enemy frigates turned in shock, scrambling to fire. The spear moved like no human ship had ever moved before. It didn't fly, it danced. The void bent around it, each twist rewriting physics, as if the laws of reality had become suggestions. One frigate shattered under concentrated fire. Another's reactor collapsed when the spear sliced through spacetime, appearing inside its formation and vanishing before the explosion reached it. The last frigate tried to flee. Ilara's voice echoed across the bridge. No survivors. They need to fear us again. The spear's lance of plasma cut through the frigate, and in seconds, silence returned to the stars. The message. Ilara stood before the comms console, her face hard as iron. "Open a channel," she ordered. Her voice carried into the void, across all open frequencies. "This is Captain Ilara Miles of the Aurora's Spear. Dominion, you thought humanity extinct. You thought wrong. We are still here. We are watching. And every time you look to the stars, you will wonder if we're the shadow waiting to strike." The crew listened, stunned, as her words became more than defiance. They became prophecy. "We are the last ember of a fire you tried to snuff out." And embers, Ilara's eyes burned, grow into infernos. The comms cut. Silence returned. But somewhere in Dominion ships, soldiers shivered. The stars rewrite. That night, for the first time since Earth's fall, the refugees in the cargo base slept without nightmares. Above them, in the steel bones of their ship, the reactor pulsed, not with instability, but with rhythm, as though it had heard Ilara's promise, as though it agreed. The Dominion had destroyed humanity's worlds. But in their arrogance, they had missed one truth. You cannot erase a species that teaches its last survivors to fight like gods. The Dominion had never feared humans. Until now. Their fleets ruled the void. Their weapons silenced entire civilizations. Yet across the cold dark, whispers spread of a single ship that had humiliated their squadrons and broadcast a defiant message. The Dominion was a machine of war built on certainty. Certainty that resistance was useless. The Aurora's spear shattered that certainty. The hunt intensifies. Dominion High Command gathered in a cathedral of black stone and silver flame. Overseer Varix's voice thundered across the chamber. "One ship, one human ember, and my fleets report losses." His claws gouged the table. "Are you children, or are you commanders of the galaxy's greatest empire?" A general bowed, trembling. "Overseer, it is not a ship anymore. It moves outside our reality. We cannot calculate its trajectory. Our weapons cannot pin it down. It is as if, Varix hissed, as if it refuses the laws that bind us all." For the first time in centuries, silence fell heavy over Dominion war councils. Fear, the very tool they had used to dominate the galaxy, had found its way into their bones. The spear evolves. On board the Aurora's Spear, engineers studied the reactor with awe. Darius leaned over the humming core, sweat streaking his oil-stained face. "Captain, this isn't an engine anymore. It's learning, like it's rewriting itself with every jump. The more we push it, the more it adapts." Kai frowned. "And what if it adapts us out of existence?" Ilara stood tall, eyes locked on the pulsating glow. "Then we adapt faster." The crew felt it every time they leapt. They weren't just traveling. They were breaking into places no human mind could comprehend. Colors no one had names for shimmered across the bridge during jumps. Sometimes they heard whispers, like echoes of voices that didn't belong to this universe. And yet, instead of terror, they felt purpose. The ship wasn't just carrying them. It was forging them. First strike back. The Dominion had enslaved dozens of human survivors, scattering them as labor across their colonies. For years, they had believed no one would ever come for them. That changed when the sky over the iron mines of Carthos split open. From a wound in space, the Aurora's Spear emerged, weapons blazing. Dominion overseers barely had time to raise alarms before the Spear's cannons reduced their fortresses to molten glass. Ilara's voice carried across the planet's comm relays. Humans of Karthos, you are not forgotten. You are not alone. The galaxy will remember your chains only, because we are here to break them. When the dust cleared, thousands of enslaved humans looked up and saw freedom ships descending. For the first time in decades, they tasted liberty, and it came on the wings of a ship that defied gods. The spark spreads. News of the raid spread faster than Dominion sensors could contain it. Across the galaxy, whispers grew louder. The humans still live. They have a ship that walks between stars. They say it is rewriting the laws of the universe. On conquered worlds, slaves lifted their heads with new defiance. In forgotten systems, Dominion garrisons tightened their patrols, afraid of shadows. Even allied species, long subjugated under Dominion terror, began to wonder, if humans could strike back, why not them? Fear had always been Dominion's greatest weapon. Now, it was turning against them. The warning. After the Karthos raid, the Spear's crew gathered on the bridge. They were exhausted, bloodied, but alive. Kai whispered, "Captain, we've started something we can't stop." Ilara looked out at the stars, her face illuminated by the glow of the impossible reactor. Good. She tapped the comm console, sending her voice into the void again. Dominion, you call us extinct. But extinction doesn't speak. Extinction doesn't bleed your fleets. Extinction doesn't liberate your slaves. We are humanity. And we are not extinct. We are evolving. And every star you think you own will one day burn with our fire. Her crew didn't cheer. They didn't need to. Because every one of them believed it now. This was no longer survival. This was resurrection. Dominion fracture. In his throne of obsidian and fire, Overseer Varix felt a sensation he had not known in centuries, doubt. He snarled at his generals. Send the fleets. Send them all. Burn every system they touch. But in the shadows, some Dominion commanders hesitated. Some even whispered in private, what if the humans are the key to a greater power? What if the ship is proof the galaxy's laws can be rewritten? Fear turned into cracks. Cracks turned into fractures. And from those fractures, rebellion began to stir. The inferno begins. That night, as the Aurora's spear drifted between systems, its crew stood on the observation deck. Stars glittered like a sea of diamonds. We were ashes, Darius whispered. And now we're fire, Ilara finished. The ship pulsed in agreement, its reactor glowing brighter than ever before. They were no longer the hunted. They were the storm. And the galaxy had only seen the first sparks. The galaxy was trembling. Every raid by the Aurora's spear, every freed colony, every whispered broadcast was no longer just rebellion. It was prophecy. The Dominion had built an empire on fear. Now, fear belonged to them. The Dominion's counterstrike. On the edge of the Valen Rift, a trap waited. 1,000 Dominion warships emerged from hyperspace, black hulls glinting like blades in the void. Overseer Varix himself commanded the armada. His voice rang across every channel. Human ship, your defiance ends here. Today the galaxy watches as the last ember of your species is extinguished. But on the bridge of the Aurora's spear, Ilara didn't flinch. She only smiled. Funny, she said, that's what they said the first time they tried to kill us. The battle began. War beyond physics. The first volley could have ended entire fleets. Beams of antimatter, suns compressed into spears of light, black hole torpedoes tearing at the edges of space itself. But the Aurora's spear was no longer bound to such rules. The ship shifted. It flickered between realities, its reactor pulsing like a beating heart that refused to obey physics. Dominion weapons passed through it as if the spear were a ghost. And when the spear struck back, entire ships dissolved into fractal shards, erased not by fire, but by rewritten reality. On the comms, Dominion soldiers screamed, "It's not a ship, it's a god." The awakening. In the middle of the chaos, Kai clutched the railing. His voice trembled. "Ilara, it's changing again." The reactor core flared. Symbols no human had ever written glowed across the ship's walls. The Aurora's spear was no longer just a machine. It was becoming something alive. Darius staggered back, awe in his eyes. Captain, the ship's thinking. Every jump, every fight, it's rewriting itself. And now it's rewriting us. And they felt it. Strength, clarity, and unity. Every crew member moved as if one mind, one heartbeat, synced with the ship. Alara whispered, "Then let's give the galaxy something to believe in." The breaking of chains. The spear dived through the Dominion fleet, each strike not just destroying ships, but broadcasting liberation signals to every world. Shackles unlocked. Prison gates opened. Dominion systems that had never known hope suddenly erupted in revolt. Across the stars, enslaved species looked skyward. For the first time, they didn't see conquerors. They saw humanity's fire lighting the void. The duel of wills. Overseer Varix watched his armada collapse. Rage burned in his molten eyes. "No, I will not be undone by insects." He activated the Dominion's ultimate weapon, the Oblivion Sphere, a weapon designed to collapse entire star systems into nothingness. A black sun ignited, devouring the rift. But the Aurora's spear stood before it, reactor blazing like a newborn star. Alara's voice was calm. "We were ashes. You called us extinct. But we are fire, and fire cannot be erased." The spear unleashed its full power. The black sun cracked. Its void light folded inward. Dominion fleets were consumed in their own weapons' failure. And when the light cleared, only one ship remained. The birth of a legend. The Aurora's spear glowed brighter than ever before, not as steel or circuitry, but as something greater. Half ship, half star, half living will. Kai stared in awe. We're not just fighting anymore. We've become eternal. Alara placed a hand on the console. "Then let the galaxy remember. Not just that we survived, but that we rewrote the stars themselves." The ship pulsed an answer, and across 1,000 systems, fires of rebellion roared to life. The Dominion had thought humanity extinct. Instead, they had birthed the fire that would consume them.